Today we're going to be doing tables, and to do anything with tables we need to go into the actual tables tab. So on the home screen where you can get project info, scenes, actors, and finally tables, we need to make a table. So this is going to be a catchphrase table, so whenever a cool guy gets touched by a projectile or any kind of attack, he says something. So first thing is we need to name our table after we make it. Just to make one is just the same as making an actor. You hit plus down in the bottom right, bottom left corner. As soon as you do that, you need to name it. Naming is an important part here. It's going to become a game attribute essentially. You're going to look in the game attributes to find your tables. So you want to specify this with something like TBL or something that'll say, hey, this is a table, not a regular old attribute. So this is going to be catchphrases. We could, title it something differently if you wanted to, of course. But for this one, this is just going to be something he says whenever he gets touched by an attack. Okay? So as soon as we got that set up, double click on it and you can see the table itself. You can always go in here and change the name if you want to. We have to specify how many rows and columns we want. This one, I only want one column, but I'm going to have about, let's say, 5 rows. Okay? Now, a lot of times when you guys are working with this stuff and you have any kind of increment where you're saying like, okay, whenever he gets this power up, increment the health. Whenever he picks up any kind of a coin or something else like that to increase the score, we're incrementing or maybe decrementing whenever he gets hit by an attack. We're basically going to be incrementing through this and looping through it. Okay, so we're going to show you how to do that. First thing on this, I'm going to specify that this is a catchphrase row. You don't have to do this because most of these rows and columns are going to be governed by the numbers on them. You can also, if you have a huge table, you can always do that table in Excel or Pages and then import the CSV file from that and it'll populate everything for you. That makes things a little bit easier. Notice that it starts on 1, not 0. Sometimes when you guys work with these things, it'll start off at 0. We want to start off at 1 here. So we're going to have to specify what type of information is going to be held in this column. This is for the whole column, not necessarily for the rows, so you have to be kind of specific there. This one's just going to be text. And we're going to start off with ouch. And then this one's going to be sweet, sassy, molassy. A little bit long, but it'll get out there. Alright, next one, we're going to call it same. Okay, and then jump back. And then last one, we'll just do kiss myself. Alright, there we go. Doesn't really matter what they are because we're just kind of showing off what we can do here. So we've got our table, we've populated it, and we're going to work with one column. So we're going to go back to our cool guy here. This is where we're going to have the information show up. So we need to put this code on our cool guy. So first I'm going to create a rule. And this is going to happen whenever he gets hit by a projectile. Now I haven't put any projectiles in groups yet, so we're going to have to make this in any, because there's 2 different kind of projectiles that can hit him. One coming from the left, another one from the right. So we need to specify that whenever he overlaps or collides with baddie projectile left, and the other one overlap or collide with actor type baddie right. Now once we make tags, we don't have to do that double, and we don't have to have this any condition here. But for right now, since we haven't done that, we'll leave it as this. So now we want to display some text. Okay, we just want to show what's going on in that cell in the table. So let me go through here and find display text. And I'm going to make a few mistakes here just so you guys don't do them yourselves, and it'll make this a little bit more fun to watch because it's not going to work out the first time I do it on purpose. Okay, so whenever you go into the expression editor here, this is the only place. If you see a little E here for the expression editor, that's the only place you're going to be able to get stuff to govern the tables, pull stuff from the tables, change the tables, erase the tables, copy the tables, that kind of stuff. In fact, if you look through the behaviors over here, you're going to see quite a bit of change table value. I think there's another one that copies a whole table, moves a table around, loop over a table. Just kind of be careful with these as you use them, because sometimes, such as with loop over table, they will not allow you to change or control things like accelerate toward, animate, collide, all these kind of things. It's usually going to be for some kind of value that you've created yourself. All right, so first thing we want to do is we want to say what's in that cell in our table. So we're going to go into here, actually into the insert function menu, and we want to say what the table cell value is. Okay, so right now when you click on it, it's going to ask you what table you're in. So if you remember, I said this is going to look like a game attribute. So we're going to look under game, and there it is, TBL catchphrases. Okay? Remember, put that TBL in there to specify. This is a table. This isn't an attribute. This isn't something that we're using to keep track of speed or anything like that necessarily. This is a whole table. Okay? And then it's going to want to know the row. We have 5 rows, and I have already created a value here called phrase row. And this phrase row is keeping track of which row I'm on. Okay? I started off at 1 since we have a 1 to start off with, not a 0. I want to reiterate that. Sometimes people get confused. And so since that's one we've made with our actor, I'm going to get phrase row, throw that in there. And we only have 1 column, so I don't have to put in an attribute for that. To manipulate a lot of these rows and columns, you will need to make attributes either in the game or in an actor, something like that, to keep track of these things. Okay, so we have 1 right here, and since it's 1 column, I'm just going to leave it as 1. And right now, as long as he gets hit by one of these things, this will show up. Now, this is only going to show up once. So if we play it right now, okay, there he is. Let's make it nice and big. There we go. So whenever he jumps up, you see it for a split second, but it just keeps saying ouch. The way we can fix that so we can see it longer, anybody got any ideas? If we want it to show up for a longer period of time, we're going to put a timer on it. There you go. We're going to drop that display text into the timer, and we're going to say for 1 second should be long enough for this. For 1 second, this is going to show up. So I'm going to hit save again real quick. I don't know why it doesn't just come up as 100%. So he says ouch every time he gets hurt by one of these things. But I want him to say a bunch of stuff. I don't want him to say one thing. So we have to increment that value. Okay? So what we're going to do is say, all right, if it's one of these 2 things, and then we're going to load this inside of another rule. Let's see here. Grab a rule right here, bring it in, bring the timer inside the rule. We're going to say, as long as the attribute for phrase row is less than or equal to 5, because we made 5 rows, we have 5 different things he can say. So as long as it's less than or equal to 5, it'll do this. Okay? And we want it to increment every time this is true. So we're going to say change attribute every time this happens. So we're going to change the phrase row to phrase row plus 1 to make it move through this. Okay? And then if it goes over 5, so this is our rule right here, we're looking for the 5. If it goes over 5, it's like it gets to 6, we want to change this back to 1. So it'll start all over again. Okay? And depending on where you put this change attribute, since these things do go in order, it will kind of affect what shows up at what time. So if you have the change attribute after, it should only increment afterwards. So we're going to leave it after so we get the ouch at the very beginning. All right, so let's see what happens. Okay, make it bigger again. Okay, so he's not showing up at all. Okay, let's figure out why. And maybe you guys saw why. Ooh, pinwheel of death. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so what's wrong with my rule? I've seen this on some of y'all's stuff. What's wrong with my rule? Anybody got any ideas? Yeah, I accidentally dropped it inside of that other rule. I didn't mean to. So the other one that was asking for a mouse position, that's why nothing was working. So let's try it again. All right, I have a feeling now it's going to work. Ah! Okay, he's starting to talk now. Okay, see how things are changing even as he gets touched by them. Okay. All right, and it's rolling all the way through these. I think we've been through them already once. Now, my guy's set up as soon as you hit 0, all of his controls turn off. So that's why I wasn't able to make him jump again. Yeah, and his life got to -1, so that means he's dead, essentially. Now, one thing, if you guys want to do something similar to this and have some phrases show up, you can have it spawn on the character. You can make a word balloon that pops up above them. You can spawn that thing. Nice thing about that is if you're going to have word balloons pop up next to you, this can not only say what's in the word balloon, but it can also say what size the word balloon needs to be, or even where it should spawn. Okay, so you could have more rows out from here. Okay, I just wanted to do something kind of quick and show you guys what we can do with this, and this is pretty much everything you really need to work with inside of a table. Past copying or changing any values, although those are pretty easy to do as well. This is just kind of get you guys into it. Okay, so let's see, we got everything set up here. If you have to do any kind of debugging or anything like that, another thing you can do to make sure you're on the right course here with your attribute that's keeping track of your rows, you can drop in another display text, throw this here, change the color, let's do blue, why not? And then I want to say about 40 off to the left, and this is going to be showing us phrase row. So I know for sure which one we should be on compared to what's showing for the catchphrase at the time. Alright, we ready to go? Let's try preview again. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5, everything's good. Okay, 6, and it should increment back. 2, okay, 3. Sometimes when it gets a little bit, now I'm at -1 again. Sometimes it may give you a little bit of a problem as it hits 2 in a row, like really quick back to back, like it did there as it's changing. You can play with your increment and also how you return to a first person kind of setup. All right, he's back down to 0 again. So that's basics for a table. That'll help you out with working with your inventory, with power-ups. If you want your characters to be able to talk, you want to have some dialogue between them, this is the way to increment and go through that. So all of your dialogue could be inside of your table. Everything can be pretty much set up inside of that space. So let's go ahead and any questions you might have, I could take those now. Otherwise, we are done.